Hi, folks. Jeff Kozlowski here, host of the K-Stream podcast, where we talk anything and everything live streaming and video production. This is going to be a shorter episode, but just wanted to come on and talk quickly about cloud-based production versus something more software or hardware-based, and why you might choose one over the other if you're just streaming your own show or you're producing an event. I think it's important to consider those two things. You know, as streaming technology becomes more widely used and more widely available, you're going to want to understand, if you're considering doing some live streaming for your business or for your own personal brand, you're going to want to consider what the differences are between cloud versus software or hardware based, because depending on the type of equipment you have, depending on the budget you have, that's going to push you one way or the other. And it's going to really, the quality of your show is going to really depend on it. So I'm going to turn to Anthony Burokas. He is a 20 plus year broadcaster based in Texas. He runs a company called Stream4us. He was on the K-Stream podcast a few months ago talking about remote production. He's done a ton of remote live productions over the last year and a half or so, especially since COVID kind of took over the world. And he's a regular contributor to Streaming Media Magazine, so he can really speak well on this subject, knows the ins and outs of remote production. So I'm going to turn it over to Anthony to talk a little bit more about cloud-based versus software hardware-based. And talk about that for a minute. We mentioned a lot of cloud-based and software. Talk a little bit about just the differences. Why might somebody go with a cloud-based solution versus something that's maybe software-based or hardware-based?
Okay, well, the cloud-based means different things to different people, I think. and cloud-based, to me, like vMix is an app. I don't mean to keep promoting vMix. I'll say Wirecast. Wirecast is an app. Boinks, Mimo Live is an app. Pick whatever you want. All these things are apps, and they have to run on a machine that's local to you, but they don't actually have to. They could be put on like an Amazon server or a Paperspace server in the cloud and run there. And whether you run it on your computer or someone else's computer, there's a couple reasons. Like, well, if I'm working from a home office and my internet connectivity is not going to have the bandwidth, the reliable bandwidth, because most home internet, if you don't have like a business internet that guarantees a minimum, your quality fluctuates. And if you can't guarantee it, then pulling it into your system and saying, I want to have 8 people come into me, and then I'm going to send them 8 return feeds, as well as the stream and the record, you're asking a lot of a machine. So you need a very powerful machine, which can get pretty expensive. And then you're going to need a lot of reliable bandwidth. And in Texas, stupid things happen because of politics, and things are not as reliable as they should be. And so putting it in the cloud allows you to say, well, now I'm just looking at the screen of something that's happening on a really powerful machine somewhere else that has unlimited bandwidth. Almost, you can't really get to the limits of the bandwidth. And, depending upon the processing power, like you don't even know what the processing power of what is needed to run StreamYard, because it's not a question, and with Amazon, or if you're going to build your own cloud server for whatever app you choose to run, you can put it in the cloud, and then you just build enough, you package in enough resources, so I want a 4-core processor, I want an 8-core processor, I need this level of graphics processing capability, I need this much bandwidth, I need this big of a hard drive. So you package it out and you build it. But still, it's like on one project I'm working on, it's like we've got a decent little machine, it's running vMix, it's doing a good job with a couple connections, unlimited bandwidth, and I think it's 70 cents an hour. I'm like, this is stupid cheap.
Yes.
If you have bandwidth issues or you have budget issues, so you have that level of server, you have that level of capability, and that low cost. It's like, yeah, it takes time, and time is money to get it set up, to get it to where you need it to be properly outfitted and all this stuff, and then get your controls so you can properly interface with that remote thing. But you can do it with a lightweight laptop. You could do it with a lightweight desktop. You don't need a great powerful gaming machine with a huge graphics card in order to have somebody else's machine do all the hard work.
All right. Thanks so much, Anthony. And one other thing I'll add on top of what he said, just keep in mind with something that's more hardware based, you likely have more control over, like, if something goes wrong, you likely can fix the problem right there on the spot. For example, a cable may be misplaced or unplugged or something like that. Whereas with something more cloud-based, if something goes wrong, it's likely more out of your control and you're kind of at the mercy of the platform that you're using. But again, cloud-based is great because of what Anthony mentioned. You don't have to have some big gaming machine, a super expensive computer to run quality streams. These are platforms that you can, you create an account and you can put in your graphics and kind of make sure your mic and you have mic's plugged in, you have a webcam, and you're off and running. I'll be sure to link to some tools in the show notes portion of this podcast episode, but offhand, some cloud-based tools you could consider Restream. You can consider StreamYard. Some more software-based applications that I've used include Switcher Studio, which is great. I know a lot of people use Wirecast or vMix. That's just to name a few. So I hope this helps if you're considering jumping into the live streaming game, or your company or your business is doing more remote event productions and you're wondering what all this means: cloud production, software, hardware production. What does this mean for me? What should I do? I hope this helps a little bit. Of course, if you liked this episode or you like the podcast in general, I'd love you to leave a rating and review for me. I always appreciate the feedback, so it's always welcome. Again, thank you for tuning in, and be safe, be well.